young adults in the household and 1 teenager remaining.
All right, sit.
And I am very thankful to see the relationship that has developed between the 4 of my kids. As most of you know, my brother and I are almost 9 years apart, and I think in a lot of ways it was kind of like being raised as only children. And so it's kind of hard to have much sibling rivalry with a 9-month-old when you're 9 years old. So that's not necessarily my frame of reference, and so it's been an exciting, rewarding experience for me watching our 4 kids. So we're gonna, and I'm gonna be quiet here in just a second, and we're just gonna kind of launch from talking a little bit about what we feel like has helped to create sort of the relationships as they are now, and I think one of them hopefully will touch on this. I say as they are now because there's been a lot of challenges and growth and development through the years. So I will yield the floor to someone that wants to kind of launch in. Again, just kind of with regards at this point to where, what do you, I'm sure most of you are well aware they're usually all way more talkative than that. So, what do you guys feel like are some of the things, and kind of in light of where you are now especially, that have helped to contribute to the relationships that you guys have built?
You got this one, youngest, oldest?
Everyone's gonna think I'm so serious. So we don't actually have relationships. I'm kidding. Oldest one's gonna take it from here on this one. I think one thing is like just thinking about it is like our adventures, especially.
Yeah.
Like just looking back, especially over the last several years since we've all kind of grown up in teenagers and now, like he said, young adults and stuff. I feel like as parents they're all very supportive and they always were kind of the really cool parents who funded our fun, and because of that we got to do really fun things and just once in a lifetime things and create memories that were just unforgettable, and that helps a relationship. It doesn't really create one, but to me I think that was always really one really cool thing, was kind of doing these sporadic adventures together and things like that and just creating memories.
I think another thing is it was always kind of like, even growing up as kids, it was always a conversation and always like kind of the culture of our house that family is important. And I think when that precedent is set by the parents, it kind of trickles down, and so it kind of just becomes a natural thing when, you know, I remember tons of conversations. We always have family discussions. So many family discussions. But it was always, I just remember growing up, like different things, you know, they always just emphasize the importance of family and the importance of relationships in the home. And your siblings are, you know, the ones that understand your life the most, have been around you the most, probably know you the best. And so I think kind of having a culture in your home that encourages that is a big thing. But we didn't, obviously, as kids we weren't, you know, just best friends and everything, because we're kids.
Yeah, tagging off of that, the kids aspect, we're all very unique personalities, and we're as kids as well. And so, for a few examples, Nathaniel drove me absolutely insane when he was a child. Like, the kid just got on my nerves. And then me and Timothy were troublemakers, and so we'd gang up together or we'd be at war. So that was fun. And then me and Elizabeth, like, we're just both females, so you know we have our moments of good and then moments of emotion. And so as kids, we kind of just, there wasn't ever this pressure of like, you have to be best friends with your siblings. Like, you have to be your very best friends with Nathaniel, who he had this really high-pitched voice, and I was like, I can't be around him. And so there was never this like forcing of, you have to have this amazing connection. And so as we got older, we always had that, like the importance of family, but it kind of sank in more as we got older, and then we realized like, wow, you know, Nathaniel's voice is deeper and he's actually a cool person. It's great. Like Timothy, we still can get into trouble. It's great. And Elizabeth, I just love her. We're great. It's great. We still have our moments. We're both still females. But as we got older, because there was never this pressure of, you have to be best friends, it was always just this encouraging it, but kind of hands off of, we'll let you do what you're going to do. And so that, I feel like, kind of both things they said, just the culture of our home and kind of encouraging adventures together has been really conducive, is that the word you used?
Yeah.
To us fostering? That's a lot of, really good words back to back. I don't know if it actually makes sense.
Conducive for later.
Oh, sorry. I stole your word. To us having really good friendships as adults, even though we're young adults. Timothy, you have to tag in now.
I'm speechless.
Yeah. You guys also like everything.
Nice.
Give me a topic and I'll just go on.
Talk about our, I was thinking about the fact that you guys never like underestimated us as kids, the importance of not harboring offenses. And to me that, and you could probably tag off of that just because, but countless nights, I don't know about countless, but that maybe that's definitely an exaggeration, but like I can remember points in times growing up where Elizabeth would probably be like, who knows, like 14 or 15 or something at the oldest, so that would make me like really young, and nights where we would all confess these terrible offenses and sob and hug and pray and all of these things. But to me that was really like important, because what that did was like, just me, and then you even told stories about when they were even younger and things like that. 6 years old, you're not neglecting the fact that as a 6 or 7 year old, there could be things that I'm holding on to and grudges and stuff, which could be turning into reactions and all that stuff. So we were kind of always like this family that kind of like got everything out there and healed from it, which I think was so helpful down the road. And you can.
Yeah, I know a lot of families that like they don't talk, but we always have family meetings all the time. All the time.
Come on, all the time.
Okay, we're gonna have family meeting, 6 o'clock, be there.
Now we get
But-
text.
Now you get texted.
Yeah, we get texts, but
We still have to
Before
have
it was just like everyone's like at the breaking point, so we
Yeah,
have to have the
that's
family
true.
meeting.
usually started with a slam door, and then the family meeting kind of came around full circle.
I'm sorry, no, Timothy, you can keep going if you want, but,
You're right. He was on a roll.
no, he's good. I think he feels something.
well, I just want to, especially to those that may be watching you're in the younger kid phase, Timothy and Nathaniel, especially in this context, I feel like have a really great relationship now.
Was not always
Don't
like that.
don't let what you see now think that all their lives it was that quite the same.
No, actually, almost every night when we tucked them in and turned out the lights, all of a sudden they had a relationship that was good. Because then they couldn't stop talking and carrying on.
They would talk
They would fight all day long,
and then talk all night.
and we would
Still has-
have to break them up and do
We're
all
like some
that.
girls.
We'd put them to bed, turn out the lights, and then we'd go in every 10
So-
minutes. Time to stop talking.
Sometimes
stop
Nathaniel, he would just be talking. I would be like, "Hey, bro, if I don't answer,
I remember this. It's a sad
well,
thing.
let's say I'm listening or I'm
Yeah.
I would fall asleep and he'd still be talking, and I would tell him, I would lie to him. I would be like, listen, if I don't say anything, I'm listening. All right, just know I'm
It
listening.
was the start of
But
our relationship. We
He
still
would
had a
just
couple
keep
things.
talking, and I'd be knocked out.
My
and
room
then,
was the closest.
and then
and
sometimes,
it goes
sometimes,
so long.
sometimes I hear Timothy. Like, I'd be like,
I was like
Yeah, man.
unloading on you, bro.
yes, you told me
My entire
everything, but I'd be
day.
asleep.
My
you know,
entire
at least
day.
you opened up. Yeah, trust me.
Gosh.
That was
I let it all go. You were just.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I wanna circle back to something here before we maybe move on to another area, and it's kind of to Esther's point, and I guess I'll speak from the parental perspective, and if my wife wants to chime in, I feel like what she said is pretty accurate, in that we've watched through the years at times where different ones seem to go through phases or seasons where they were kind of sandpaper with each other. Seems to me that most of those times, of course not everybody has 4 kids, but seems to me that they always usually had another sibling that they were pretty much in good standing with. But I think trying to recognize that and not necessarily, I mean, I would beg to differ with the implication of the number of family meetings, but that's really neither here nor there. But I think the context of that, again, was not trying to force something as much as really what Nathaniel said, and that is trying to encourage to kind of keep a clear spirit, a clear heart towards each other.
Yeah, the phases as well. Or the ages.
Ages.
Yeah.
Timothy.
Me too. Okay.
Oh, no, I'll
Okay.
he was thinking about making things more clear. I think that's one thing. I almost want to use the word tactful. That they were very like. Is that the right word? Purposeful. There it is. Why am I using all these weird words?
She's a living
Strategic.
dictionary.
Was we'd have these family meetings because we keep bringing them up.
About to give the dog
To-
up for adoption. Okay, sit right here.
Family meetings.
Okay, family meeting.
Oh, to get to the root of the issues between us. And so, like Nathaniel said, if we begin harboring offenses, whatever would be going on, they kind of just knew that our lashing out wasn't based, like, yes, it was based on you pushed a button and I reacted badly, but there's something going on below the surface that needs to be addressed. And so we'd have these times, sometimes it would just be one-on-one, like, me and Timothy, I think, had the most of moments where my parents would take us into their room and we'd sit for hours upon hours waiting to get to. Yes, it wasn't healthy for us spiritually to have an offense towards one another, just in general. And so while it wasn't this pressure of you guys have to be best friends, it was you don't need to go to hell because of something they did for you. And I feel like that was a really helpful kind of lesson to learn early on, to continue it as now we're adults. I feel that way about other people, but we still maintain that among each other. And just to be completely honest, a few weeks ago, over October, we basically had a family meeting to talk about me and Timothy, just because my mom felt like there was stuff going on. And it wasn't super personal. It wasn't like putting all our business out for everyone. Not stuff like that. But there was some stuff going on between us that needed to be discussed. And while we are good friends, we weren't necessarily seeing that was what was going on between us. And so it was helpful to have someone point it out, like, you're struggling with her because of this, and you're struggling with him because of this, and you're lashing out of these deeper rooted things that you need to deal with. And really, because no matter what, we need to deal with those, because we don't need to hold offenses in our hearts and stuff. So while it was up for us you know, as we're older, it's a little bit more on us to make sure we're taking care of it. When we were younger, they did try to make sure more that our relationships were clear, but just using that as an example, we still have that kind of culture of making sure everything's good between us, but still just encouraging friendship and not forcing it. I personally, I've had this before, one time someone came up to me and was like, "You need to be best friends with my daughter." And I was like, I don't even want to be friends with your daughter now. Like, you're gonna force that on me, you're gonna tell me to do that. That makes me react and say, I don't want to do that at all. I'm actually friends with the daughter, so that's good. But just saying, because they didn't do that to us, I think that was super helpful, because knowing my personality, I keep talking about Timothy, we're similar in a handful of ways. His personality, we're going to react to that in the opposite of what's being asked of us. So, I don't remember the phases, and I'm talking a lot, so I think it was just ages, wasn't it?
If it's any consolation,
Different ages.
the problems never stop. They just get a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
It used to be like, he took my toy, now
It's like,
Yeah.
just more complicated.
Well, we don't want to discourage them too much.
sorry, it's all good.
But for those of you in the preschool days, even the newborn days, it seems difficult. It really does. It's physically tiring for sure, but it changes. That's. I'm just gonna leave that there. It changes. However, in order to not sound terribly negative, because that just, there's also light at the end of the tunnel for those of you, that are in that stage where you've got, especially multiple children. And one thing I've always said is that the days are long, but the years are short. And that's something that we have found to absolutely be true. I don't think that we could have ever imagined that we would sit here in front of you with 4 adult children. So one who thinks he's an adult anyway, but so,
Yo.
I guess let's shift a little bit here then. And again, I want to realize I'm repeating myself. I understand some of this is not necessarily the broadest of scopes here. So if nothing else, I'm just at least acknowledging to you that we recognize that. And I think this next one, we're going to kind of talk about it in the context of of having multiple children. But I think even if you have if you only have one child, I think there's some of this that I think is still very applicable and could be beneficial. And that is, and I think my wife probably gets the credit for starting us down this pathway as parents, and that is allowing and respecting, I would say supporting, but not sure if it's always supporting in some areas, but individuality and uniqueness. And I think I feel like we really tried this intentionally from very early on, starting with the girls. In fact, I'll give you a little story as to what I think contributed to that. My brother and I actually shared a room until I was, I think, my senior year of high school. Again, we're 9 years apart, and we had 2 other available rooms in the house, but I wanted to share rooms. And so finally, my senior year, I moved out. And so that was kind of my frame of reference. And so I really, my dream was for the girls, and then once we had the 2 boys, to share rooms until they got married. Whoa! Not quite. But we started off that way with the girls for, of course, the first year or 2 was definitely not an issue, but we moved from the townhouse where Esther was born, right? And Timothy, but Esther, and then to the next house, and the girls shared a room, and it worked for a little while, there was one part of the room that was always perfectly in order. Bed was made every day. There was another part of the room that not so much. And we'll leave it to all of you to guess who's who. And I think really neither one of them handled the pressure of that. And it took my wife a little while to finally get me to cave into allowing them. I felt like there was a closeness that they may not have, which turns out that was not the case at all. So again, from a very early on time, I feel like we have worked to support and encourage, not try. And I know there have been times we've made the mistake, as all parents have, of making comparisons. Sometimes in moments of frustration, another sibling has gotten referred to. But the majority of the time, I feel like the overarching pattern is that of supporting that individuality. So I don't know if you want to tag in off of that before we sort of let them, just to kind of share from your perspective how hopefully that has helped each of you.
I think I can take this one off because throughout my years, I've switched a lot of times what I want to do. And so like education-wise, I kind of struggled for some part of it. And whenever I had problems and stuff, my mom always like helped me figure out a solution. So like when I was at Antioch Christian School, I wasn't doing good. She brought me home, had me homeschool. A lot of times it was trips to the thrift shop,
quote unquote homeschool.
thrift store with Sister Kimbrough looking at furniture. But you know, she was just training me in case I wanted to go into design one day and do houses. But no, but
Economics.
yeah, you know. But other than that, like even I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cop, and then I was gonna do cybersecurity, and then I wanted to do law. And every time I had something that like I wanted for myself, my mom always would sit down with me. We'd look at stuff. She'd help me get classes that needed to help me with that. And I think a lot of times, I'm sure parents are probably like, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. But I don't think my mom ever really, anytime I told her I had like a dream or something I wanted to do in the future, she wasn't like, no, you don't need to do that. It was more of like a, okay, how can I help you achieve that? And I think a lot of times parents want their kids all to be perfect and not do what they want per se sometimes, as in like they want like the perfect family and everything, but sometimes Nathaniel wants to do something different than Esther. Esther's done, you've gone to several schools and everything, but in the end, are you doing what you want to do and what's making you happy? Yeah, because I think my parents, that's the biggest thing is they kind of just, our dreams, they take it for themselves and they help us achieve them as much as possible. So I think that's a good thing.
A slightly less grown-up version of that, because he's mainly talking about college and career and stuff. A more everyday example, as many have seen, even though it's a little dialed back, I like to express myself in my clothes. I've passed that on to Nathaniel. I claim that. But when I was younger, and in like the really crazy phases, there was always this line that my mom said when I came out in like who knows what, the neon tutu phase. Trishia Alders, she's the real one. The neon tutu phase, like, you know, that was a party. But I'd come out, you know, ready to go to church, and I'm like, hey, how's this outfit? And my mom would just be like, she'd look at it, she'd be like, it's modest. And I knew that was like a, yeah, no, but you do you. And so I was told that a lot, not in a bad way, but that was really helpful in that they let me wear what I wanted to an extent, as long as they made sure, okay, you're modest, you're good to go, you can express yourself however you want. And so it has been funny to see how the dynamic between me and my mom with that, and then Nathaniel and my dad with that, because
Let's
they're
just say
grown.
I take him shopping more often
Yeah,
than he does.
so I have to be behind the scenes like, no, let him do that, let him do it. It's cool, I support it. So, same thing with Timothy actually. Elizabeth is, you know, we have some days we're similar, and then we have days where we call them personality outfits. And I'll be in who knows what, and she'll be very put together and looking all nice and stuff, like a little J. Crew model. And so just like the everyday thing of what you're wearing became kind of an opportunity to let us express ourselves, but give us all that room to kind of be who we wanted and stuff like that. And so that was super helpful, and that has kind of bled over into different aspects of our lives. And so there's been like similarities and differences, and like Timothy said, like for me, I've gone to 4 colleges now. I don't recommend that. Don't follow my footsteps, anyone.
A lot of transcripts.
It is pull an Esther, stay a semester. Don't do it though, okay? But that kind of creative expression and living your life out to the fullest in, you know, who you are and what you do has bled over into college and career and ministry. Yes, we, you know, all 4 of us are involved in music, but we all have very different music ministries. People talk about how Timothy, when he plays piano, like his spirit of ministry behind him playing piano is so powerful. Well, that's him expressing himself through that ministry. And then you have Nathaniel, where he's growing into this worship leader. That's amazing to see. And Elizabeth is developing as a worship leader, and I worship lead, and all the different things. And you know, he plays piano, and now how much he's grown in guitar, and kind of letting who we are just be seen, and not putting us in a box necessarily for every aspect of our life. Like all 4 of us, yeah, we sing, but we're not all forced to sing on a regular basis. Timothy would much rather hide behind the piano and the organ and drums, and I'm calling him out right now, but he sings. But he's not forced into the box of, we know you sing, so you're gonna do that because all the other 3 sing, so you're gonna do this too. You're gonna express yourself in your own way. And so that's been a really good dynamic to see, one, how it started when we were little, but then growing up, how we've developed and grown into it. So
I think another thing as kids was, my mom's very creative, my dad's very creative too. We always talk about on vacations, we'd like break out coloring books, and his were always like immaculate. Like we would get done and it was like
perfect.
Or
Wow.
sandcastles at the beach.
Yeah, like,
build
it was
us like
just,
a real life sandcastle.
it's like crazy
Be laying in my bed.
pent up creativity. But we made messes as kids, and it just, but like each in our own way. Like, well, maybe not Nathaniel. And
Nathaniel doesn't do messes.
I helped
The
clean up
rest
the
of them
messes
do.
after we
It
made
was
them.
organizing his
Me and
But-
Timothy made a lot of messes. Elizabeth was involved and then cleaned it all up, and Nathaniel was just his own little,
Yes.
you
He
know.
said organizing
I
his
don't know.
crayons.
Yeah, organizing his crayons. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but it kind of created this, I feel like this atmosphere of just like mistakes can happen too, and like there's grace for mistakes. And so, yeah, you made a mess, but like, you know, we'll figure out how to clean it up, or we'll do whatever. And so it kind of like, as kids, I feel like that kind of like leads into, as teenagers and young adults, like seeing the different sort of aspects that you can branch out into. And you know, maybe you do want to try this, like different hobbies, different things. I mean, we all have very similar interests, but personality wise, we are 4 very different people. Like Esther and I have the opposite Myers-Briggs personality type, like complete opposite, but we're able to like totally, she talked about, you know, clothes. I can go in her closet and pick out an outfit that's like totally Esther, and she can come in my closet and pick out an outfit that's like totally Elizabeth. But like it's not necessarily something I would have like done for myself, but we know each other that well that we can do that. But we had that space to like branch out and have fun and kind of sort of discover ourselves as kids.
I guess I'll sort of tag off of all this, but kind of narrow it down to one of the questions we did receive a couple of weeks ago, and that was a little more so about father-son, father-teenage son relationships. And I'll throw this out there, and hopefully one of these guys can chime in with something. But one of the things I feel like is important, and I'll kind of use an example, I guess, is anybody that knows me knows that I've always been very much into sports, athletics, watching, etc. And both of my sons are athletic, have played various sports through the years at times, but from my perspective, neither one of them have ever been into sports to the same degree. Again, we all still play golf together, and but everything else is, Timothy knows all the stats and all that better than I do. I don't do all that, but Leo and I watched the Army-Navy game together, which didn't really want anybody there once it was over anyway, but so I feel like when it comes to that, and probably hopefully this could apply to mother-daughter as well, but in this context, as we were talking, and I wish I had some other great advice to give on that topic, but I do feel like that's an important thing. I know a lot of times the challenge is for a parent to live vicariously through their kid, and so I in this context, with regards to just the two boys here, young men, sorry, I feel like that's kind of another application that to me is kind of a important part of that relationship, because I think sometimes it's kind of easy as dads to sort of expect your sons to just kind of duplicate you, and I feel like overall my sons and I have had a fairly healthy relationship, and I feel like that's been a part of it. And we went to Navy football games for years. Somebody provided my dad season tickets, and we would go, and it was kind of hit or miss if one of them would go. If I was available, I was going, but I tried to never make them feel badly if they weren't interested, if they didn't care to go. And I'm pretty sure there's a couple times they went simply to kind of appease me, because there didn't appear to be a whole lot of interest in the game. But nevertheless, so I don't know, you guys don't have to, but either one of you have anything to add in this
I guess
context?
one thing I'll talk about when it comes to like as the father perspective from a son, I think one of the biggest things my dad did growing up and even now is he never like forced me to be like him, but the thing is he was always a role model as the fact that even now a lot of like in my relationships or even just anything I do, I just look back to all the things my dad did because he set that example. And even when he didn't know we were looking, he wasn't trying to do it on purpose, he was just being him. He just kind of showed me what it is to be a man, and from anything from him redoing our bathroom or working outside to even when him and my mom are in a conversation and the way he listens and then takes everything in. I've literally used that myself, and I'm like, that's what my dad did. He sat and he listened and he waited and then he talked to someone. I just think one of the biggest things is just kind of be the man you want your son to be when he grows up, but don't make him be that man. Just be the model for him, but don't try to mold him yourself. So just kind of show him what you want him to be, but don't be like, no, you didn't do it like me, or you like this team, or whatever. Like my dad likes the Cowboys, I like the Patriots. My dad wasn't gonna be like, oh man, can't believe you're a Patriots fan. He was just like, alright man, that's your team, like alright, whatever, cool. But I think just one of the biggest things is my dad, and even if you look at him as a pastor, he never was a different person on the platform than when he was at home. He still was the head of the household, and I don't think he ever disciplined me in a way because I disappointed him or anything like that. It was just, he wanted me to grow up to be someone, obviously, but I think that's my...
And I'll go off of that, and just kind of, I was literally thinking like essentially the same exact points, and that was just, I guess kind of the respect level, and that was, you know, especially in this context of father-son, but I guess you could apply it to any relationship, and that was just, you know, you want your son, or you want to have a good relationship with your son, you want them to respect you, you know, be a respectable father, you know, in everything that you do, because literally, you know, everything he just said, I was thinking about, and I was just like, I've always had so much respect for him, just because I've watched him in every single area, every single aspect, like he said, whether it was on the platform, whether it was at home, in every heated situation, on the good days and on the bad days, all of that, I've watched him, and in every area, I watched him act in a respectable manner. And not only that, but like he said, a role model in something that I say, okay, I want to pattern my life after that. I would like to act the same way. And furthermore, literally same exact point, because although, you know, no one ever sees the side of things or anything, but you know, him and I have led very, you know, we've had many mistakes over the years, many things, many trials, whatever. And through all of that, like he said, I think one of like the biggest things I cringe at is when I am talking to a friend or something and they tell me that they messed up or something and their parent told me that they were disappointed in them and things like that. I can look back on my teen years and there were times where I would make mistakes. I'm still a teenager. My younger teenagers. Yeah, I'm
gonna look back at my 2 years last year or today.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah. My younger, you know, whatever. But can look back at kind of some of the younger years and everything like that, and there were times where he literally looked me in the eye, and despite me getting in trouble, despite my mistakes, despite all of that, straight told me, I am not disappointed in you. He's told me before, there's nothing you can do to disappoint me, and that was such a big thing, because what he set was a relationship that wasn't based on a performance mentality, and which is kind of a difficult thing for probably a lot of fathers. But he set this standard of, in a sense, unconditional love, and what that kind of set was. And he was this role model, but what it kind of told me was, you know, there's no mistake, which, I mean, you just gotta kind of have a good dad for this, you know, but it kind of just set the standard that there was no mistake. Like, I knew that there's nothing I could do to ever take away his love or to ever stop his love towards me. And he made that very clear, though, which goes back to being respectable, you know, in and of itself, and just being a great dad. So that was kind of what I was thinking.
We need to move on before we need to get the Kleenexes, so. Not expecting all that. Well, before I kind of go on, we have any questions?
Yeah. This person asked, how do you navigate the power struggle in the tween years?
How do you navigate the power struggle?
Does that mean like
You
you want to
just,
be an
I
adult?
can speak to this.
Oh dear. Esther.
You just pray a lot as a parent, because we are very strong personalities, and we were as little kids, and honestly, I'm pretty sure the only thing that got my parents through was prayer and grace and supernatural strength. Because, and me and my mom talked about this, when I was younger, tween to probably 16, I hated her. And I've said this before, literally we talked about this, like, I turned into this crazy child. And I think one of the number one things I can say is, we'd have some sort of a blow up, some sort of a crazy blow up, whatever, but she always came back and made sure that we kind of settled whatever happened, or if things were harboring, then we settled it later, or even, you know, kind of years down the road, and not holding grudges, but years down the road, kind of looking back and seeing, like, what was going on. And as, even though I'm only 22, looking back 10 years ago with Grace and seeing where she was at, but then also really appreciating how they handled it, And so I feel like, but honestly, my opinion personally is that they probably just prayed a lot for their own grace and strength, and also for us to pull through, me to pull through. That's my 2 cents on that. But anybody else?
We concur.
Is that like between like
I was gonna say,
parents?
is that
Yeah. I mean, I was assuming it was between parents.
Yeah, power struggle between
Yeah.
parent and
Between
child.
us and
I
we got
guess.
thrown or
yeah,
something.
like, man.
We weren't all twins together.
I know. I didn't know.
I think, to me, another important factor in all that is kind of, I made a note the other day it was a different context and family in this setting, but I think it's important to distinguish between what is a pattern versus what is a more of an individual occurrence, because thankfully, as we sit here this evening, I can say, and I realize, if I could just say it this way and it not sound defensively, I'm pretty sure we're in a situation and that there's a lot of people that from the outside looking in probably have misperceived this household in the sense that we've had our fair share of struggles and ups and downs. We have not by any stretch, parents or children, lived any of this family stuff perfectly. But so I think it's important though to let me back up. I'm jumbling up in my own head here. While each of them at different times have been through struggles, what I have sensed and seen and believe that I felt in my spirit from each one of them was that their heart was in the right place. And so if there was some kind of struggle they were going through, there was a power struggle, rather than completely reacting or overreacting to that particular situation. It wasn't that there didn't need to be some guidance or direction with that situation, but hanging on to the overall, I don't want to put our stuff out there too much, but I won't go into the details of this because it's more our personal story. But we had a situation one time where a man of God I respect very much, this was several years ago, said to us that the devil had put a target on Timothy's back, whatever, target on him, and was out to destroy him. And the thing I think that was the reassuring for me through some of that timing was, again, watching the overall pattern, and not overreacting to any one particular moment that really wasn't the true reflection of who he or the other ones in those times, who they were. So
I just tagging off of that, I think that's the way God looks at us. If God judged us for one day, one moment in time, oh my goodness, that, there would be no hope. And God looks at our life. And so, that power struggle question, if you want to watch my class on Rome, it's on there. I can put you in my class because I talk a lot about power struggles and family life. But one thing that I will say, and I was not always great at this, especially with Esther, she's smiling now, but is try not to overreact. Overreacting is, it's a huge problem. And honestly, they'll probably would all sit here and tell you, wow, Mom, like, I kind of wish you'd heard this, preach this to yourself 10 years ago. But they all know that, and I've apologized to them multiple times, but unfortunately, I learned a lot the hard way. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody watching. I'm the volatile one out of the two of us. But I spent a lot of time overreacting, and some of that was because, you know, you sweat the small stuff. You take one incident or one action or one, you know, thing, and you blow up, and then all of a sudden it becomes, and I get into it in my class, and you can watch my class, but it basically, parents, it's basically you're the problem, just so you know, because you're probably overreacting based on things that have happened to you in your life. But all that said, another thing, in my opinion, with the power struggle in the tween and teen years to keep in mind, and Pastor always said this to me, and actually, like, I didn't really fully comprehend it for a while, but he would always make the statement, try to say yes more than you say no. And as they grew up, I started to realize the power in that. There's just something about telling a kid, no, Mom, can I do this? Dad, can I go here? No. Instead, try to gauge the things, the activity, whatever it is, just whatever. Back to Esther and her, fluorescent tutu, whatever. It's a simple example, but, and I can't think of all the things offhand, but just saying yes to that. Like, rather than making it some whatever by saying no, that turns into a big explosion, etc. So, working on saying yes more than you say no, and I don't mean that, and if you need more clarification, we'll be happy to talk to you, but understanding the right context. I'm not saying passive parenting, etc. And I think you guys, I don't even know if you could give an example, a better example, but just it's important in those years to try to divert the situation, or when kids are little, they always say, don't just take away the toy, but instead, in fact, Rhonda Gross, shout out to you, because I learned this with Timothy, because she was awesome with Timothy. When he would go to nursery, she would say, Timothy, I would come pick her up, she'd say, unfortunately, Timothy had a couple toys go to toy jail tonight. And it was funny, and I knew what she was saying was, she didn't just take a toy from him because he wasn't sharing, wasn't doing, he probably hit a kid in the head with it. But, that toy, she basically was a master at handling a situation in such a way that Timothy didn't even realize, that he was kind of a psycho, but I'm just saying, so moving that into, like, diverting the attention, and I don't know, I don't want to sound like I'm rambling, but it's actually super important. I think it's kind of like where Nathaniel says some of the adventures or some of the whatever, I don't want y'all to think like we go skydiving or we're like, cliff jumping, that's not the adventures. In a lot of ways, when I say like saying yes more than no, it might just mean if you see something coming up in your child's life and like, okay, they're going to want to go to that and that's not healthy for them or good for them. Instead, we might be like, oh, hey guys, this Saturday we're going to go do this. They don't even have a clue that we just diverted the whole thing so that we avoided that conflict. So that's does that all make sense? So you can kind of see what it looks like as a child and then growing up in the older years. But anyway, so I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Some parent psychology.
Questions?
Are there any funny questions?
Get to know you, honestly. How long does Pastor
Send
David
funny
here?
questions.
Who takes the longest to do their hair in the house?
Well, if there's no questions, we'll go one or two more things here and then kind of wrap it up. Maybe we'll get a few funny questions, but this one, I don't know, this may be more important to us as parents. I think they hopefully will have a perspective. I think they will. We've actually said this a couple of weeks ago to young married couples, several of which have no children, and that is to me, the importance of creating traditions in your family, in your home. And that can be anything from holidays, birthdays, other things. I would say for us, some of our biggest traditions revolve around holidays, not just Christmas, but Easter and other holidays. But and again, from the parental side of this, what's really been kind of neat to me is these last couple of years, especially as all four have grown up, that things we started when they were really young, they have still asked, are we doing them? Are we having this? Are we going there? And that just very rewarding, I guess I would say. It was fun in the younger years. We did things that I enjoyed them in the moment, but there's also just something at this season. And so and again, it's some of this is based on the time of the year, I guess, is why I really wanted to say this and encourage. And I realize we're kind of halfway through the holiday season pretty much, but there's still time. So I don't know, anybody want to affirm from the
Create a Hallmark for
the
your
young
kids, man.
perspective? We got thumbs up. So, but I
And
mean,
they
those,
don't have to be expensive. I've always
Absolutely.
liked to stress that. They do not have to be expensive. These traditions and things.
I mean, yesterday's was free, technically.
That's
Yeah.
true. Homestead Gardens, you can go down there for free and look at the train set and the houses and, yep, perfectly free. So,
No pressure, but we tell people about our Christmas traditions we've done since we were little. It kind of sounds like we grew up in a Hallmark movie.
I know.
I'm just saying, not to set the bar
We
or
have like
anything,
an
but
event for every day, man.
yeah,
oh my
Every
word.
holiday fall.
Oh
it would
no.
be a good Hallmark movie, probably better than most.
You know?
Hallmark, if you're watching,
Take notes.
Hey guys.
Wow.
A Wright Christmas.
Wow.
still no more questions?
We actually do have one question.
Oh,
He was asking where Pastor gets those socks from.
Wow. Thanks, guys.
Nice.
you know what? I feel horrible because somebody just gave, actually,
that is awkward.
I think it
Oh,
was the
that's-
Voglers, if I'm not mistaken. Forgive the poor memory. I am almost 50 now. I think the Voglers.
Nice.
If
Yeah.
you don't send funny questions, you're not submitted. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I will.
That's like 60
I want to touch on one or two more things, and then maybe we'll get a few more. It's kind of funny. Timothy usually keeps the house rolling with laughter, but when he's on the spot, it just doesn't quite. So we'll see.
You're saying I'm not funny right now?
No, I'm saying when you're on the spot, it doesn't always flow quite as freely when we try to force
Not
it.
as funny.
No, you're always.
Make a joke
mean,
right now.
Sing your little script.
I just mean when it's spur of the moment, you're not being told to be funny. It
Sorry if I'm not funny.
happens.
Guys.
That's wow. That was not what I was
I thought
saying.
you were saying I'm not funny.
So
We're probably gonna
I-
have to have a family discussion about
Yeah,
this
we're
Yes.
gonna have to have a meeting after this.
Hours.
work
We
through
will be
some
meeting for
things.
hours apparently
So
after
many
this.
things.
Yeah.
You know what? Okay, we were children. It felt like hours.
Yeah.
Way more than
Hours.
6 issues.
But I do. There are. This may be just a couple things I want to just say briefly from my pastoral perspective, not necessarily a discussion they can chime in, but I've made it a point to ask, sort of, I guess, a lot of times visiting pastors, ministers who have families and who have especially older children, and in particular those that have older children, that are in the church, what they felt like they did that contributed to that. And some of you perhaps have heard me tell this before, but the very first time Brother J.J. Bourne came and ministered for us several years ago now, he and I went out to eat the first evening he arrived in town, Saturday evening, and we were sitting and just talking, and so I asked him that question: what do you feel like is the key to children being raised in the church and staying in the church. And he said that he felt like the biggest key was that the parents were on the same page. And I thought that was really interesting, because I've observed throughout my ministry at times where families, where mom and dad were not on the same page. And one area where that's really critical is when it comes to lifestyle. One parent was supportive of sort of a biblical lifestyle, while the other parent was a little more free in their what they were willing to allow, what they supported. And in looking back at that conversation, I feel like that's been a factor for us, is that
Sorry, we're checking the Facebook feed.
my wife and I being on the same page, and so not one of us saying one thing and then the other one coming and undermining that with something different. One saying this is what you better do, and then the other one coming along and saying no, you don't have to do that. So I think that's really critical. And again, especially to those of you that are currently raising children in your household, I want to encourage you, if you've got disagreements, those need to be handled as best you can behind closed doors, and not in front of your children to hear that disagreement. So that's one thing, y'all. Yes.
I'll do that just real quick, because I don't know, it's something that her and I have like discussed many times, and I don't know if you could call it a pet peeve or whatever, but one thing that, and like we've had several discussions about this in the last several months, and I actually talked to the youth group about this one time, about the factor of being converted, so to speak. And what we've talked about many times is, just because, you know, even as Pastor has said, he grew up with a drug addiction, and because his parents drug him to church. You can raise your kids dragging them to church every Sunday, and it doesn't guarantee a walk with God whatsoever. And one of the factors that I would say, probably all of us could say, was there had to be a point in time in our lives, whether it was through a struggle or whether it was just naturally, couldn't be forced by them, but this had to become our own. It's like he's preached before, you know, the God of Abraham had to become the God of Isaac, and all those things, and they had to receive it for themselves. And I would say encourage that, just because I watch as parents, you know, they take their kids to church every week, and even if you're faithful, and even if you put them on the pew, that doesn't last them, and in turn we kind of raise these lukewarm Christians, so to speak, because they grew up and it never really becomes their God. And I feel like for each and every one of us, there's kind of a point in our lives where this wasn't something that mom and dad did, and this wasn't whatever. And like I said, kind of going back to being converted, so to speak, in the sense of just, you know, I don't go to church because it's what my parents do anymore. I go to church out of my own love for truth and walk with God and all of those different things. And so if your kids, you feel like they haven't had that point, obviously that's not really something you can force, but it is something that you could be conducive to. There's a word. It is something you can promote, and I think that kind of just comes from an atmosphere very helpful to that. But it has to become their own.
I think something with that is seeing a real life example of God's grace. And so for me, I've made mistakes, and one time I told my parents something, and my mom's immediate did not skip a beat. Like, I was shocked at how instant it was, so what? It doesn't mean I love you any less. You can't do anything to make us not love you. And I was like, I sat here like, wow, that was like 0.05 seconds that she just immediately went back with that. And so I get to see how they show me grace helps me in turn with the conversion experience that I had. You know, I've had a few, but I feel like you kind of consistently, as you grow, and especially for kids growing up, I'm going to school for psychology now, my 4th college, and there's phases of growth from newborn to toddler, to adolescents, to teenagers, and young adults. And I'm going to school at a Christian college, and in every section of that, they would break down the spiritual perspective of that. And it's in a psychology textbook is talking about the fact of what will keep a young adult, what will keep a teenager safe as in church, like stuff like that, and how you treat them and what will cause them to maintain it. And really it talks about at young adult phase, which is around 21, whatever, they're either going to, if it's been instilled and they've truly grabbed hold of it in the teenager phase, then it'll continue. If it's not something they've taken hold of for themselves in that phase, then when they're a young adult, they're going to rebel because it's something their parents do. As a young adult, they're going out on their own. This is from a psychology textbook. So it's crazy. So you have to see that there is a conversion experience, and there might be like one moment you can pinpoint, or there might be a few moments that continued over the course of the years. And so I can say from experience, the 18-year-old conversion experience that I usually put my finger on did not last for 21-year-old Esther. And 21-year-old Esther had to have her whole new conversion experience. And while I'm at 22, during that phase, I said to them, you know, I'm not doing well. I'm doing all these things and all whatever. I'm not that wild, don't freak out. But when I told them some stuff, their immediate reaction was grace. And so to see that on a completely human level was so amazing to transfer onto me going to God and saying, I'm just not doing well, and feeling His grace. And so that's what one of the things, talking about 2020 coming to a close, I have seen in such, have felt, have whatever, the grace of God on another level that I just didn't even think. And so, but part of me being able to say that is because of the grace my parents have shown me. And so, yes, you have to have these conversion experiences, but you're young and dumb, quite honestly. Your brain isn't fully developed. And so there's going to be mistakes. You're going to fall short. And I can say personally from experience, if I didn't have parents who were showing me grace, then they're humans. And so for me, you know, I've talked about before from the platform of my dad being a great example of a heavenly father. Well, you know, we're all made in the image of God, so God has paternal and maternal aspects, my opinion. And so I can say that about my mother too. She gives a great example of what God's love towards me is like. And so saying that to say, no matter what, through all of the ups and downs, seeing their example of forgiveness and grace has in turn made me want to go and repent and want to ask God for forgiveness. And Bishop has talked about it, the difference between, just religion and sonship. And one is, I messed up, I hope my father doesn't find out. The other is, I messed up, I need to go tell my father. And so my relationship with them is able to be an example, a fleshly example of how the dynamic between my relationship with God should play out. And for me, I feel like that's been a huge help in keeping me. And so, yeah, I don't think it's good to end on "and so," but.
Well,
I have a couple fun questions.
okay, let's do the fun
All right,
question.
real quickly. Do you guys ever pull pranks on each other?
We did during quarantine, sort of.
Well,
Yeah, the boys built
that
Oh,
is true.
a door
At the top of the stairs.
at the top of the stairs, and we weren't allowed up. So one night we stole the door.
What's wrong with the man cave?
And we put it downstairs by our rooms.
Yeah, and then
You guys hung your pictures.
And it was
Yeah.
oh, we hung our own pictures upstairs.
Really big pictures
Yeah,
that we cut with a
We
knife.
stabbed them and we ripped them
yeah,
down.
it was very aggressive.
I have the footage if you're curious.
I mean, I'm sure.
Okay.
actually kind of disturbing.
I'm sure.
That
We
escalated.
love them.
Yeah.
So they're usually more
Not the
so
posters.
scheming up pranks to do against others. I think that's kind of.
Others?
Yeah. You mean like family in town? Other friends?
No,
Elizabeth!
Camp
Put them
and
there.
Oh, at camp.
bands,
Oh,
it's
yes,
true.
yes, at
Elizabeth-
camp,
oh, it's
Elizabeth
true.
and Timothy are
Elizabeth-
masterminds. I'm just gonna expose her fully. Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is the wildest prankster ever. Like,
Yeah, it's
she's
true.
top notch.
Don't
Yeah.
So
trust her.
she looks quiet and shy and unassuming. It's all fake when it comes to
Five-
pranks.
5 feet of evil.
5 kids.
5 feet and 2
Okay,
inches of
I
evil.
That's so
And now I have to retire.
Who has the worst coffee addiction in the family, and have you considered a family intervention?
That might be me.
I do 4 cups a day sometimes.
I just drink one.
I think mine has been the
Esther's,
longest.
Esther's evened out.
Esther's is the longest, but she doesn't drink as much. I will make a pot for myself at school.
I had 3 cups of decaf every day for no reason.
I don't drink decaf.
He
I don't
can't have-
either. I did for
Oh.
when I couldn't drink caffeine. But
Yeah.
that's
honestly,
a
I
thing.
think
I'd
Esther
actually
has the
probably say
longest
me.
running addiction because
Yeah.
you started drinking coffee when you were like 10.
I started drinking it black when I was 10. So,
You know, caramel.
one piece of parental advice. I look at 10-year-olds and y'all were insane.
That is pretty wild.
Insane!
It's true.
I personally started drinking my coffee black at 10 because I had previously been drinking coffee how they drink it, which means cream and sugar. And I just decided to try it black. And now I look at 10-year-olds
Sometimes
and
I'm
I was
sick
either a
of coffee.
psychopath or y'all are psychopaths. I don't know what, but I think mine's probably the longest running.
So we might need a family intervention.
No, it's okay.
No.
Coffee's good.
Is it an issue?
No.
I wouldn't say
What
so.
is
It's a family bonding.
You know what? I could give it up.
Nectar from heaven.
Nectar from
I mean,
heaven.
how-
We need an intervention on what kind we drink.
No,
I don't even know if you can say you
You
drink
have
coffee.
too much of the nectar from heaven. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know if he drinks coffee.
Nathaniel was even singing it yesterday.
the best part of
That's
waking
Part
up.
of waking up.
It's
Folgers
catchy, but it
in
doesn't
Folgers
taste.
in your
Your
cup.
cup.
Folgers in
Definitely
your cup.
Your cup.
Yeah. All right.
Did you guys have something?
Did you guys have questions?
You have raised your hand.
Wow. Let me see. Oh. Can you please demonstrate a 6-person group hug for us? Asking for a friend.
I don't know if
Well,
we've
that's
ever done that
not-
before.
We
I
don't
don't
really
think we've
group
ever
hug.
done
For
that.
us, I can
I
stand in the
mean,
middle.
I feel like that's how we could end it. That
Oh,
seems
all right.
pretty
I thought
good.
we were just gonna do our,
Okay, we'll
our
end it
weekly
with
worship
that.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll end it with that in
No,
a
we
moment.
don't.
I thought we were gonna end with our
That's
Sunday
a
night
worship
worship
set.
set. Our Sunday night
Oh.
worship set that we do every Sunday night.
Yeah, we did
After
that
church,
this morning.
yeah,
We
after
kinda had
church. We
morning
have a
and
whole
night
worship
at
set
the
after church.
You talk good
He
time.
said a worship set every night, every Sunday night.
same- Yeah, well, because we usually are in church on Sunday night.
Oh,
Yeah. But anyway,
It's
so,
okay.
all right.
I will say it's a bit of a miracle that Leo is still here and a part of the
Honestly.
family.
I didn't even know where he
Oh,
was this whole
This is true.
time.
Because at 4 a.m. we were outside trying to find him
Yeah.
today.
your foot, buddy.
That was not.
I might have to hold him like a baby.
That was not conducive to a Sunday morning.
No,
on
no.
CBC.
Yep.
Well,
not doing it on the live stream.
I want to say one more thing, I guess, and then we're gonna wrap up
Okay.
with the hug.
Can you
Well,
not?
If you kind of look at the sequence of Scripture, I'll just say it this way. Some of you may not maybe sort of like it or even agree with it, but I think it's accurate, and that is God created family before He created the church. Because family goes all the way back to the book of Genesis, and the church, as we know, didn't start until the book of Acts. And I think sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up with life, ministry, job, career, ambitions and lose the importance and the value of our families. And the saying is, strong churches are made up of strong families. And so I want to encourage all of you this evening, whatever the specifics of your household, and I realize there's probably a few of you that are single, but maybe you're even beyond where we are in this, and again, you've got adult grown children, you've got the empty nest. Whatever phase it is, every phase has potential to grow and develop beyond what it is. And as I've often used the analogy of my yard, the good things don't happen by accident. They don't happen by default. The weeds grow by themselves. The vines take over by themselves, but the good stuff requires effort and work. And so I want to challenge you and encourage you. And what a great week to take advantage of some focusing on family. And we don't have anything on the church schedule from tonight on. And I would encourage you. In fact, I'll insert one more thing. I'm trying to close. I think, and I know there's sometimes this is not possible, but I just want to throw out there something that we have valued and tried to abide by, and that is, as much as possible, every day, you ought to sit down and share a meal together.
Amen.
By default, that's usually dinner. And I realize, again, sometimes schedule-wise, but I'm encouraging you, and not on the couch with the television going,
Oh, he wanted to add to it.
not scattered all over the house.
No phones at the table.
No phones at the table. We're fairly good at that. No phones at the table. But absolutely, I think that's huge. No phones at the table. Again, no television on in the background. No distractions. There's just, I have to tell you, one of the difficult things the last several months is it's not very often that it's 6 of us at the table anymore. For a while, at best it's 5, and then from time to time it's less than that. But I think it's very important. And I know the scripture is, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and lose his soul? But I think we can say, what does it profit a man or a woman if they gain the whole world and lose their families? And so I want to encourage you. And so actually I want to pray before we group hug. And so thank you for joining with us this evening. I hope and pray somehow this has been a blessing to you. Actually, I will just say this has been a blessing to me. And hearing from these 4 kids of mine has been very, very encouraging. And so, Lord Jesus, we love you. Thank you so much again, God, for the privilege of being a part of your church, your kingdom. And Lord, we have experienced so many different ways this year, the ways in which that takes place. We still try to do some of the things that we're used to doing, that we love to do, but we also are learning more and more that being the church, being the body of Christ, is not limited to certain circumstances and situations. And so I pray, God, that you would, as we continue navigating the season we're in, and you alone know exactly what the future holds, I pray for every household that's a part of this congregation. And I realize that there are a lot of different dynamics throughout this congregation. There are single people that live alone. There are a variety of family types and dynamics. And so I pray that for every household, God, that you would touch and strengthen. I pray for every family, Lord, that you would bring healing and wholeness to any divisions that there may be in relationships and homes. I pray that there would be a healing that would come from your Spirit. I pray your blessings upon us over the next several days, Lord, as we celebrate family time, spending time together, those that are going to exchange gifts over the next couple of days or on Christmas Day. I pray that you would bless our times. Lord, I pray that as we wind down this year that's been such a unique year, that your Spirit would abide in each one of our homes, that everything we do over the next couple of days, your presence would just saturate the things that we do. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, in Jesus' name, amen.